The moment the verdict was read, my knees almost gave out beneath me. I had imagined this day over and over, rehearsed how I would feel, what I would say, how I would breathe. But nothing prepared me for the sound of the word guilty echoing across the courtroom while my own brother sat just a few feet away, staring straight ahead like a stranger. In that instant, relief and grief collided inside my chest so violently that I could barely tell them apart. My name is Amber Collins, and the man who destroyed my life was not a stranger, not a criminal I had never met, but my own brother. As the judge continued speaking, laying out the sentences in a steady, emotionless voice, my mind drifted backward through the nightmare that had consumed the last few months of my life. It felt unreal that it had all started with a single phone call, one that shattered everything I believed about my family, my marriage, and the people I trusted most. Before everything fell apart, my life had been simple in the best way possible. My husband, Ryan Carter, was the kind of man people admired without even trying. He was brilliant, the kind of software engineer who could sit for hours solving problems that made other people give up in minutes. But what made him special to me was not his intelligence, it was his calm presence. The way he always made me feel like no matter how chaotic life became, we would figure it out together. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where neighbors waved at each other and kids rode their bikes until sunset. Our house was small but warm, filled with laughter, late-night conversations, and the kind of comfort that only comes from being truly understood by another person. It was not perfect, but it was ours. At the time, I was serving in the Air Force, stationed overseas in Germany for what was supposed to be an 8-month assignment. Leaving Ryan behind had been one of the hardest things I had ever done, but we both believed it was temporary. We had plans, long conversations about the future, about where we would travel, maybe even starting a family once I returned home. None of those plans survived. The call came in the middle of the night. I still remember the way my phone lit up in the darkness, the unfamiliar number, the strange sense of dread that settled over me before I even answered. When I picked up, a calm, distant voice told me that my husband had suffered a heart attack and passed away. Just like that, no warning, no explanation, no chance to say goodbye. I do not remember much of what happened in the hours that followed. I know I packed a bag, I know I got on the first available flight back home. But everything felt distant, like I was watching someone else move through the motions of a life that no longer belonged to them. The 15-hour flight felt endless, yet somehow I did not sleep for a single minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ryan smiling, alive, and it made the reality waiting for me even harder to face. When I finally arrived, the world felt colder, quieter, like something fundamental had shifted. The funeral was held on a gray Monday morning in February. The kind of morning where the sky seems permanently overcast, as if even the weather understood that something had been lost. I stood in the back of St. Andrew Church, barely able to process the scene in front of me. Rows of people filled the pews, their faces blurred together through my tears, their voices hushed and heavy. At the front of the church sat a closed casket, something I had not been prepared for. Above it was a photograph of Ryan, smiling in that familiar way, wearing his favorite flannel shirt and holding a cup of coffee. It was a simple picture, but it captured him perfectly, and somehow that made it hurt even more. My parents were seated a few rows ahead. My father, Henry Collins, who had always carried himself with quiet strength, looked smaller somehow. His shoulders slumped as if the weight of everything had finally caught up to him. My mother, Grace, sat beside him, clutching a tissue, her soft sobs barely contained. Then there was my brother. Ethan Collins had always been the dependable one, the person everyone turned to when things went wrong. He was successful, respected, the kind of man who built a reputation that others admired. But that day, something about him felt off. He would not look at me, and his hands trembled in a way I had never seen before. Beside him sat his wife, Natalie, her expression pale and tight, like she was holding something inside that she was terrified might escape. At the time, I told myself they were grieving, just like everyone else. I wanted to believe that. After the service ended and people began to leave, I felt numb, like I was moving through water. That was when a man approached me quietly from the side. It was Ryan's assistant, Daniel Hayes. He was younger, sharp, always composed, but that day there was something urgent in his eyes. Without saying much, he slipped a sealed envelope into my hand and leaned in just enough to whisper something that sent a chill down my spine. He told me not to open it there and not to tell anyone in my family about it. Before I could ask questions, he stepped away and disappeared into the crowd. 2 hours later, I sat alone at my parents' kitchen table, staring at that envelope like it might explode if I opened it. I recognized Ryan's handwriting immediately, and that alone made my hands tremble. Whatever was inside, he had intended for me to find it. When I finally opened it, my life changed for the second time in a single day. Inside were several documents, each one more disturbing than the last. The first was a bank statement showing multiple transfers from Ryan's account to my parents' joint account. The amounts were significant, and the pattern stretched across several months. I did not understand why he would send money without telling me, and the confusion quickly turned into unease. The second document was a life insurance policy, one I had never seen before. The payout was massive, far larger than anything we had ever discussed. I was listed as the primary beneficiary, but what caught my attention was the secondary name, my brother. The third document was not official, it was personal. A handwritten note from Ryan that made my heart stop as I read it. In it, he wrote that my brother had been pressuring him, pushing him towards something he did not want to do. The final line was the one that shattered everything. He said he believed my brother might kill him. I remember sitting there, staring at those words, unable to accept what they meant. My brother, the person I had trusted my entire life, was being accused of something unthinkable. Then I saw the final document. It was a lab report, one that showed toxic levels of arsenic in Ryan's system. Not just trace amounts, but levels so high that there was no doubt it had been intentional. That was the moment denial became impossible. Everything that followed moved quickly, yet somehow felt unbearably slow. I took the documents to the authorities, where I met an investigator who listened carefully but explained that what I had was not enough to make an immediate arrest. There were gaps, legal complications, and too many ways for a defense to challenge the evidence. But Ryan had not left me with just documents. Days later, an automated message arrived, something he had set up in case anything happened to him. It led me to a hidden storage device, one that contained the truth my brother thought he had buried. There were recordings, financial records, digital logs, and most importantly, a video of Ryan himself. In it, he looked exhausted, frightened, but determined. He explained everything, how he had been manipulated, how the pressure had escalated, how he realized too late that his life was in danger. He had been poisoned slowly, methodically, by people he trusted. Even with all that, there were still legal hurdles. So a plan was made, one that required me to do something I never imagined I would have to do. I had to face my brother. I invited him and his wife over under the pretense of discussing the financial matters. I remember how tense the air felt that night, how every word seemed to carry hidden meaning. As the conversation unfolded, the cracks began to show. My brother grew defensive, his voice sharp, while his wife looked like she was on the verge of breaking. When I finally revealed that I knew the truth, everything changed. There was a moment, just a second, where silence filled the room. Then my brother gave an order, cold and calculated. His wife reacted instantly, reaching for a knife in a desperate attempt to silence me, but I was not unprepared. Years of training kicked in without hesitation. I disarmed her before she could get close, and within seconds, the room was flooded with agents who had been waiting for the signal. That was the moment it ended for them. 6 weeks later, we were in that courtroom, and the truth had been laid bare for everyone to see. The evidence, the testimony, the recordings, it all painted a picture so clear that no argument could erase it. When it was my turn to speak, I looked directly at my brother, searching for something, anything that resembled the person I once knew, but he was gone. I told him exactly what he had done, not just to my husband, but to our entire family. I told him that whatever bond we once had was destroyed the moment he chose greed over humanity. The judge's sentence was final, life in prison. As I walked out of the courtroom that day, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Not happiness, not peace, but closure. The pain of losing Ryan will never truly disappear, and the betrayal will always leave a scar. But I also carry something else now, something stronger. The knowledge that the truth came to light, that justice was served, and that the man I loved did everything in his power to protect me, even when he knew he might not survive. For that, I will always be grateful.